guest is an Emmy and Peabody-winning comedian, actor, and writer you know from his work on The Office, Extras, and Hello Ladies. He co-created and stars in The Outlaws. The third season is streaming now on Prime Video. Let's take a look.
The boundary wall does encroach 5 yards further into Mr. Cowan's property than you and your wife first indicated. Now, taking this to the courts would be time-consuming. It's expensive. But what I can recommend is contacting the land reg. Can you give me 1 second to discuss something with my paralegal? Gabby, please. This is supposed to be a business hub, not porn hub.
Please welcome to the show, Stephen Merchant, everybody. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Very excited to be here. Thank you.
My brother and I were very fortunate to have you on our podcast, Family Trips. I loved hearing about how you grew up. And it strikes me that your dad had a real respect for comedy, but was not in comedy. He was a plumber.
He was a plumber. He worked in construction. He and his own father single-handedly built a house from scratch at the weekends.
And then
they did a regular
lived in
job,
it.
and then sold it, and you know, and so yes. But whereas I'm very different to that, I've done very little house building.
Yeah.
And you know, he's like a real man. You know, he's like in England, he's a bloke. You know, he's a blue collar guy. Like we have very different ideas about what a jigsaw is. You know, like you know, like a jigsaw to him is something you use to cut wood, and I use a jigsaw to while away a rainy afternoon. You know. So yeah, very very different kind of experiences. But it's funny because whenever I'm around him or his friends, I have this urge to sort of be one of them. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you've got any of that. If I'm around like a construction guy or a scaffolder or an engineer, I want them to think I'm one of them, that I'm not some artsy college kid.
Because does anyone ever call you a bloke?
Never.
Yeah, okay.
No. No, it's largely nerd, geek,
Yeah, okay.
you know,
so the words we have.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they've travelled across the pond. And like I remember one time, I was doing some work on a flat, and my dad was helping me, and he said, "We need to buy some glass for this window." And he said, "I've got a friend Colin who runs a glass store. Go up there, buy some glass." So I went up there, and I just went into this act where I wanted Colin to think I was one of the boys. You know, and I sort of went, and I remember kind of walking with like a swagger, and I remember pretending to chew gum. Like I wasn't even chewing. And I sort of walked in and I'm like, hello, dude. Do you see the big game of sports last night? You know, like, I don't know anything about sport. And he said, yeah, how's it going? I said, I'm Big Ron's lad. And I went over to this glass and I pulled this piece of glass out. He went, be careful, mate. I went, I'm all right, chief. I know how to handle glass. And it turns out I don't know how to handle glass. Because I looked at my hand and it was cut wide open. Right, and there's a reason why sheets of glass are called a pane.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Right, like it was unbelievable. And I didn't want Colin to know what had happened. Yeah. And what I should have done is just begged him for help.
Yeah.
And instead, I put my hand in my chino's pocket. And I'm there, and he says, everything all right? Yep. And he said, is that the piece you want? I went, yeah. And he came over and he put on, have you ever seen those guys who like train hawks? Like they have a giant leather glove. And he came in and he pulled, and I thought, that makes sense. And he pulls it out and he wraps it up for me and he brings it back to the thing. And I'm trying to pay and I'm trying to sign the credit card receipt, but with my left hand, I'm right-handed and I can't get any purchase on it. It's sliding around. And he said to me, I'm going to ask you a question now. Have you hurt yourself? And I was like, I have, yeah. And I remember saying, please don't tell my dad. And he didn't, which is sweet of him.
That's very nice of him. Big Ron doesn't have to hear stuff like that about his son.
Yeah. It's pathetic.
How did he feel? You know, he probably knew you weren't going to go into glass works.
Yes. Yeah,
so how did he feel when you left Bristol for London?
Yeah, I moved up to London. It's about 130 miles from my hometown of Bristol. And he didn't really want me to go, but not because he was very supportive. He just wanted his family around him. And he was trying to find reasons to persuade me not to move. And he's like, what's London got that Bristol hasn't got? We just built a laser tag. You know, I'm like, OK, Dad, OK. But I moved up to London and he says, the thing is up there, you've got to be careful. The mugging. He said, I had a friend up there, he went up to see Les Miserables. right? He was only there 24 hours. He got mugged twice. I'm like, okay. So I got paranoid because I was young when I went. I was like 20-something. And I'm not making this up. You'll think I'm making this up, right? So I was terrified that someone would pull a knife and say, give me your wallet. So I carried my real wallet and a fake wallet. And I put like a couple of banknotes in there and like an old Blockbuster video card.
Sure.
And then, this is the way my mind works. This is why I'm not a bloke. I'm like, what if I hand over the fake wallet? And the mugger goes, this is a fake wallet. And he stabs me anyway. So I carried a second fake wallet. For years. And I never knew which was the real one.
I would assume that. And certainly if you never knew when a knife gets pulled on you, that's not going to be like...
This is where, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, the inevitable happened. I was walking through a park late and I was making a shortcut. I was stupid, I shouldn't have done it. And 3 guys kind of surrounded me. They didn't have a knife, but one of them, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment they're going to say, give me your wallet. But these guys outwitted me because they said, give me your phone.
Oh, yeah.
I just had the one phone. And so, they were walking around, I was like, do you want a wallet? I got
wallets.
I got wallets for all of you. Yeah.
You outsmarted me, and your extra reward is a wallet.
Rent anything you want in Blockbuster if you can find one.
Your parents, by the way, were in the clip.
They were in that clip, yes.
That was your mom and dad on the laptop.
That's right, yes.
Doing a very good job.
I didn't tell them that they were reacting to sex noises.
Oh,
no,
they were very good.
I just said there were some noises.
Okay, I felt the subtlety of their performance was good. I couldn't help but notice not a speaking part.
No, they did have lines.
Okay.
And I cut the lines out.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm hoping they don't watch Late Night, because they haven't seen it show yet. No, I have told them. I did call them because I didn't want it to be an awkward Christmas.
But sure. And did you cut it because of performance or just...
No, they were surprisingly good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was
so
just
it's just
for time.
Sometimes, for time.
Things get cut. Yeah.
This is a show you created. You write with a staff of writers. You're also one of the stars of the show. And you encourage your writers, because this is about 7 people who are doing community service, and then sort of it becomes a crime ring. Is that a fair enough way?
Yeah, kind of crime thriller, comedy.
Very
drama.
funny. Wonderful Christopher Walken's. It's a great cast. But you tell your writers to have the other characters insult your appearance.
Well, yeah, because I'm playing this kind of awkward, nerdy English guy. It's a real stretch for me. And and so he gets insulted frequently in the show. And so, but it's, I don't know if you ever had this, where you go into the writer's room and you're like, okay, think of insults, guys, for me. And they're like, can't think of any, boss. There's nothing. I got nothing. And in the end, I sort of freed them up because I started throwing in a few. And they came up with a few.
What are some of the memorable?
They came up with Gollum's ugly brother.
Okay.
Albino E.T. on stilts.
Okay.
One of them said I looked like a haunted pencil. And another one said that I looked like what you'd draw if you were playing Pictionary and the card said giant pedophile. But, they're not writing for another season. They're not going to come back.
That was all their last.
That's their last moment. Yeah.
Congrats on the show. It's always so wonderful to see you. That's Stephen Merchant. The Outlaws is streaming now on Prime Video. It's great. We'll be right back.